Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada, as we in the world attempt to get back to more of a normal, or at least I do, with normally scheduled programming of such nonsense that I find interesting or important to talk about. Today, it's about Canada, NATO, and the globalist designs that are related to each other. um, The NATO meeting is currently continuing to go on, but an interesting play was made by Carny. Instead of increasing defense spending to an absurd degree that Canada really can't afford because we're spending it on way too many other things, um, instead we are going to develop, where is this? Not only our critical minerals sector, but in fact infrastructure to export that market to the export those goods to the European markets, specifically the NATO countries. It's extremely interesting because I said they were going to do something like this. Now, I thought it would be specifically more border trading between Canada and the United States because Canada would be, Canada was in such a terrible negotiating position, but Trump being distracted with, more than one thing. He's got a current insurrection going on in the United States. Color revolution, textbook color revolution, by the way. And he's still got the Middle East to look out for. He's got NATO to deal with. He's got all these things on his plate. He has a judicial insurrection going on, a whole bunch of stuff on his plate, which allowed Carney and his team to slow roll the negotiations with America and get this deal in place and signed with the European NATO nations. Now, again, I thought the critical minerals would be there, and I did say the other day that it would most likely shift to Europe because of Trump. Okay? I did see this a little bit coming after what the Middle East bullshit. I didn't think it would happen so fast, but this is happening for a few reasons. One, Europe is being knocked the hell out of Africa. What was it? During the beginning, I think, year of the Russo-Ukrainian War, or at least this dust-up of the Russo-Ukrainian War, France was kicked out of Algeria or Nigeria due to paying well below market price for, I believe it was plutonium. Like, the French military was pushed out. I know it's not that big of an accomplishment, but it is. And you see this proxy war in Africa that's been going on for at least my lifetime, okay? Of the United States basically sending in Green Berets and other such special forces. You also have the same from other NATO countries, and they're propping up regimes or, facilitating training for insurgents or rebel factions. We've seen now a ramp up in Africa over, again, the timeline of the Russo-Ukrainian War of Russia using Wagner to go in there and counteract. Now, it's been going on for a while. It's just now it's after what happened with Wagner and the fallout with Putin, there appears to be a ramp up in redirecting Wagner forces to Africa to deal with this. You also have China with the Belt and Road Initiative. They also are supplying proxies, and there's been a proxy war in Africa for a long time, and it's over, again, critical mineral access. The Russo-Ukrainian War was started and was provoked well before the Maidan coup. Like, we're speaking like 1991 is when this was really started. I mean, you could go back further, but like if you want to say where it was pretty much written in stone, it's 91. Um, with how the Soviet Union broke apart and the shenanigans that were absolutely played in Soviet satellites. One of them being Ukraine. Um, the war, the Russo-Ukrainian War, was there because, again, Ukraine has been the only country that has launched where you can launch a successful invasion into Russia. Um, until the winter, and then you have to fight in the winter. Don't fight Russia in winter. Bad idea. Anyways, so that kicks off, and that was to get access to Russia's critical minerals and resources in general. The idea was Russia's right next door. We can turn Russia into the new Africa. Well, that fell through, and they are clearly starting to realize that the Ukrainians are not winning this war. The Americans are not going to get involved in this war before the next president, most likely. Other than what they're already doing, but they'll probably slowly ramp down operations as Trump tries to push for peace. But what this means is the EU needs access to these resources. And of course, because the European elite are a bunch of pricks, to say the least, they can't have, fair market evaluations of the goods they wish to buy. So, looks like Canada's going to get slightly screwed with this deal. I say slightly. It is good for Canada. We are developing our resource sector. Absolutely. The problem I have is we're probably not going to do primary refinement and manufacturing of those resources, which sucks, because if we were to do primary refining and primary manufacturing, and we could then do, tertiary manufacturing of those minerals of the resources. So you take steel, you refine, or you take carbon and you take iron, you make steel. You refine that steel into iron girders or whatever, and then you use it to build other shit that you need to build. You can get sheet steel, blah 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 blah. You have primary, secondary, and then tertiary manufacturing is where you refine it into like a usable product. Like you turn light gauge steel into, I don't know, I have a metal, must be steel, little light at my desk here. So like we could do that here in Canada and have manufacturing and have a more robust economy. That looks like this isn't going to happen as of yet, but if the government doesn't fuck around, okay, that would allow eventually that to happen, which is, it's really good, okay? This is putting Canada on the right path. I am giving Mark Carny credit for being incredibly fucking stupid, because what he's doing here is rearming NATO so that they can go back and attack Russia, because they're fucking crazy and are dead set on breaking Russia. It is the most insane, I don't want to even say chess match, but it is in theory a political chess match. God damn it, I can't speak. Chess match in which Europe wants to break Russia and has wanted to break Russia for hundreds of years, and they keep fucking trying and failing. Okay? Napoleon got close, but he overextended and fought Russia and Russians in a winter war. Never do that. It's like never get bogged down in a land war in Asia. That never fucking ends well. So we can start to see NATO's designs for Canada, which is becoming the new Africa. And what's going to allow that to happen is the stupid Bill C-5, which gives the Prime Minister and his cabinet the ability to break federal laws to rush through national infrastructure projects. Now, they could already technically do that with Section 1 and Section 33 of the Charter of Bill of Rights, but this way allows them to do it in a sneakier way where they don't have to have legal challenges because it's went through the Parliament, it passed, and went through the Senate, it passed. They don't have to they don't have to repeal legislation that prevents them from, say, making a gas line or mining, because they've got all that stuff in place. It allows them to do this really quickly, so they don't have to go through the standard regulatory bullshit that we have in this country. And it allows them to grift the ever-living fuck off of this because it will be non-reviewable. Okay? It is a brilliant play. You get to pretend to your base, oh, yeah, no, we're super green and super all this, we're progressive as fuck. But in reality, you couldn't give a flying fuck. Which has always been true about the green grift. Never been about improving the environment or improving the conditions of Earth. It has been always about getting rich and making other people poor, because in these people's minds, like, you have to think of them as European nobility. They cannot grasp the concept of, high tide lifts all boats. They think they have to make you poorer for everybody, for themselves to be richer. Like, that's not how capitalism works. But then again, they don't believe in capitalism. They want mercantilism, because they want to control all the money, which is very much a different play. So I would also expect with this deal, this is, tying Canada to Europe like we really haven't been in a long time. I would suspect, okay, that at a certain point with the specifically open banking, all right, which I still fucking hate, by the way. Nothing good will come of that when the government makes a directive like that. That will then incorporate our banking system eventually, okay, into the European banking system, which is completely fucked. Though that's a bad fucking idea. Which would then allow a greater degree of interconnectivity, which will then, as I have said in a previous video, open banking is very much the backbone of how you slide people into a central bank digital currency. It is not going to be like the Americans out there, oh, it's going to be FedCoin. We have tried that. It has failed. Africa and Caribbean nations and the Swiss are pretending it's working. It's really not. So it's going to be a more complicated but elegant system. So I would expect more financial ties, specifically in the financial sector, linking and creating an interconnected interoperability between the European banking system and the Canadian banking system. I know it's already incredibly globally interconnected, the entire financial system, but I think that it's going to be pushed even harder. Like, you may see some form of not a SWIFT-like system, but think more like an Interact type system. Now, this is temporarily possibly going to help Canadians, where you could see cash flow start to come back into Canada, and you could see Canadians increase, say, medium household income, which, again, very good. But the consequences of that is we are going to be more interconnected with Europe, and Europe wants to be a authoritarian hellhole. Yes, I know there are freedom movements all over Europe, and they are gaining ground. That is fantastic. But at the short to mid-term, authoritarian hellhole and attaching to that is a bad fucking idea. I'd much rather see a interconnection and hitching our horse to the more freedom-oriented hellhole that is America. Yes, all countries are basically hellholes at this point. It's varying degree. America is the best of the bunch, in my opinion. But that is besides the point. I would also probably see more European style laws. Like Canada has a history of European laws being passed in Europe like 10 years ago, finally being adopted in Canada again a decade later. I would presume that increases the rate at which we adopt their stupidity will be higher because of this interconnectivity. Like the internet is interconnective, but when you have more of these direct trade relationships, more people pick up the stupid ideas. Some of the good ideas too. Like, I will give the Europeans credit. Some European nations know how to do bike lanes. They have their own special road. It's not on the car road, and it's not on, the pedestrian crosswalk. It is its own fucking thing. That is fantastic. They're separate. It's not, oh, there's a little lane off to the side of the road that's for bikes. And it's not, hey, you can bike on the pedestrian crosswalk. That is, when you do it right, bike lanes are fine. When you do it wrong, like we hear in Canada, it's fucked up. Same with roundabouts, traffic circles. Okay? They are technically too small, most of them, at least in my neck of the woods. They're like, I think 10 to 15% smaller than they need to be because they're basically built to the standard of European cars, which are thinner. North American cars are wider and longer. So that's why if you've been to a traffic circle in at least my neck of the woods, they're not fun when other people are there. When nobody's there, they're quite fun to go around. You can really whip around them. And if you're stupid, you can whip around them in the dark, like I have done. In a V6 car, too. God, I miss that car. It was a piece of shit. The Ford Taurus was a fucking piece of shit car. But it was hearkening back to the days of American Muscle. And it wasn't like, oh, hey, it's this Mustang. It was like, it was cheaper. It was more affordable. And like the thing was designed first and foremost as a police pursuit vehicle, specifically the V8, but the V6 too. It didn't have all the stuff of the police pursuit vehicle, but it had enough to be fun. God, that thing was so fun to drive. But it was a modern Ford, so it was a fucking piece of shit. Everything on that thing broke at some point. Had to get rid of it. But man, it was fun to drive. Not as wild as it was to drive an early to mid 2000s Toyota Sienna. If you don't, it's a 4-cylinder or 4 to 6-cylinder, depending on what you buy, van that is light as hell. Obviously, it's a Toyota. So it wants to drive like the engine you could put in a 2-door coupe. Like, you can race the damn thing if you want. Like, I especially think at the end of that Sienna's life, there was a problem with the timing, and it was advanced just enough to give you more oomph. Like, if you were tuning the vehicle yourself, you would tune it basically to that. So, like, that thing really wanted to go, especially in, like, low gear. Like, when it was an automatic, obviously, but, like, as it was changing through the gears, it would, like, you'd be in, like, driving in the city, and you'd be in drive, and it'd be like, oh, you're in what would be second gear, but, like, it's doing third gear speeds. Oh, man, it was, those cars were fun. Well, van and car. Anyways, the I would expect in the future as well, Canada is going to attempt. We've kind of seen it like in June this month with the Pride stuff coming from the government to a certain extent. It's not as bad as it was the year previous or before that or before that or before that. Okay? But I suspect Canada uses that progressive, leftist, just insanity. Just keeps it, the government keeps it just enough to just see if we can be a vector of that reinfecting America. Like, it's not done in America yet. It's on a lifeline. They are retooling and rekitting what they call it, because obviously you're not going to get rid of an idea that is very effective at breaking down the family unit, breaking down interpersonal relationships. You're never going to get rid of that. But it's a good vector for attacking that. And if you can get America to fall, the resistance to it is not as much as you would expect. Because you still get that America is the cultural epicenter for a lot of things. Like if you look at the podcasting or online space, basically the biggest podcasts or online shows, however you want to call them, they're all American. So if you can infect that and discredit or destroy, say, Joe Rogan, you can very much, get your new world order type bullshit going on. So that's, I think, my update on this, again, globalist bullshit. Again, credit to Mark Carny and his team. This is brilliant political moves. They may not understand marketing or, like how to bind a nation together against a core idea. They sure as hell know how to fearmonger and get their agenda done, though. It's why I was saying prior to the election, Carney is going to be dangerous. He doesn't speak very well, and he's trash at speaking, but every central banker is trash at speaking. Like, find me one that's good at debate or speech. Like, they don't exist. Central bankers are as dumb as motherfuckers. At least when it comes to the economy and how it all works. They're all lying through their ass. But when it comes to propaganda and manipulation, they're fantastic. I will give them credit where credit is due. Everybody thinks they control the economy, even though when you read, the equivalent of, what's it called? The Fed Beige Book, or any of the Fed books, they admit openly they have no fucking clue what they're doing or where they need to be or, what do we actually have to do. Paul Volcker was famous for doing that in the Beige Book. You just got to read it. And nobody does, because it's boring as fuck. Anyways, that's the video for today. I am going to attempt to do a white pill video tomorrow and the week. It's generally how I do things. I will try to find, most likely, a white pill grab bag of good intentioned stories, or very white pill in nature, because we could probably use that this week. Could have used it last week, but I was too fucking pissed at Trump. So, until tomorrow, when the white pill hopefully drops, have a good day, and see you in the next one.